Well, hey everyone, here we are at Delaware County. I want to welcome you to one of the day rooms that are under construction currently. Today we're going to walk through a few different things. The first three things that I want to show you are inside of the steel cell, the actual mezzanine, security mesh barrier, and the bulkhead barriers, as well as the detention opening and all of the different aspects of it. And then later you're going to hear from Rick Lewis with Willoughby Plumbing Systems and Michele Dorsch with Accurate Door Controls. Well, here we are. We're outside of a 4-man steel cell. It happens to have an integral steel cell shower in it with an upper and lower tier. So we're going to go in and look at some of the key benefits of the steel cell product. Probably the biggest selling point for the product on the inside of the cell is the durability of the coating that steel cell applies. It's a Sherwin-Williams product, industrial marine grade finish, commonly referred to as polyurea coating. It provides the owner with a seamless coating from the bunk to the shelf, the bunk step, the door frame. Everything in the inside of this cell has a seamless polyurea finish, providing additional durability for the project. So some of the unique things that Steel Cell's done to separate themselves from other products that are on the market. They've got a completely engineered and tested furniture system. So you can see the bunks here, double stacked in this situation. They're fully welded to embeds on the inside of the steel cell wall. And again, the seamless coating continues throughout the entire process. This particular project, the owner elected to have a rollout prevention plate, keeping people from coming off the top bunk. We've got an integral bunk step here that's partially recessed in the actual steel cell wall itself. You've got a robe hook shelf here, robe hooks provided by Norix. Back over here, one of the things that is really unique to steel cell is having the integral shower. So part of this isn't an ADA shower, but the actual pan itself was manufactured by Willoughby. And Steel Cell puts all this together in the plant and then provides the entire seamless coating again for water resistance and durability for the life of the facility. After that, some of the other unique features, you've got a Kenall light fixture up here, security resistant, security caulk to the ceiling, so there's no ligature points and there's no access for the inmates. The only thing that's not coming fully installed when this cell gets brought to the site is that sprinkler head and the little bit of security caulking that's around the perimeter of the floor. And with that, we're going to go outside, we're going to look at the detention opening, which is actually part of the steel cell itself. All right, now let's take a look at the detention opening. Let's just discuss some of the features that Delaware County has decided to go with for this particular project. So you've got a double glass door. So you've got a top and bottom light with the side lights. So also top and bottom side lights, which gives you some additional visibility into the 4-man cell. One of the things that I want to point out that this is a 12 grade 1 detention hollow metal door manufactured by Titan Steel Door, the frame and the bar light itself. You can see that they also chose to go with the food pass so they can use it for feeding if necessary. So after that, so you got the detention hollow metal, and then you're looking at how you're securing these vision openings into the door and the actual bar light itself. So on this particular project, the owner elected to go with a glass-clad polycarbonate product manufactured in Selma, Alabama by Global Security Glazing. So there's really only two options for security glazing, and what I always tell owners is you got glass clad, which will crack if it's hit with any hard object, and or polycarbonate, which actually scratches and yellows over time. So it's one of those things, if you're an owner, you definitely want to have a demonstration, get some samples, talk to some other facilities and understand what product you want in these vision openings. This is a RR Brink 5022 electromechanical lock. So as you can see, Michele demonstrated a little bit later on that the lock itself is controlled remotely. So there's two ways to use this door. So you have controlled access through your SEC integrator. You also have mechanical access, being electromechanical lock. So you can always open your doors with a key. So let's look at some of the unique features of the 5020 lock. So we'll take this cover plate off real quick. What I want to show everybody in a little bit more detail is how easy this is. After the cells are set, you've got basically a Molex connector that's pre-installed at Steel Cell's plant. So this is your Molex connector. So I've got something that came that's with the lock, and this is your field cabling. It was pre-installed when this was shipped from Georgia. So after we've installed the cells, we're able to immediately install all of these locks, thereby securing the lower tier cells within a week of installation, preventing damage from your pre-finished cell. So right here you've got a bevel bolt, which is basically a dead latching bolt. So you can slam the door shut, and then your door is going to dead latch if the roller bolt is engaged. This is the roller bolt or dead latching mechanism that provides two different things. So the door will deadlock once this lock status roller bolt is engaged. The other thing is once you can kind of hear the switch in there, but basically also when it dead latches, it makes the lock status switch, which tells the secured electronic system that the door is secure. In addition to the security of the lock status switch, you also have a door position switch, which is up here. This basically tells the staff in the control room whether the door is open or closed. It doesn't predetermine to tell you that the door is secure. This is your security right here. Your dead latch has to be made to provide security so the door can't be sheeted or otherwise manipulated by whoever's staying in this particular cell. So that's a brief overview. I think that the door itself and the opening in the facility is the most critical part of the entire project for the security of the correctional staff and the inmates. So from here, we want to talk a little bit more about some of the other key features on this Design Assist project. Some of the unique things that we've been doing lately with Steel Cell of North America, Modern Detention, and Kane is creating a safe mezzanine environment that cantilevers off of the cell structure itself. So it basically starts with this flat bar right here, which carries all of the loading from a cantilevered mezzanine all the way up to the structure above. All of this is self-supported off of the engineering and the structure inside of the lower tier cell. So from there, Modern Detention takes it from there with engineering that provides a tube steel framing structure, either open bar grate structure or a solid plate structure or a concrete structure. This happens to be an open grate design. So one of the unique benefits that the bar grate mezzanine system gives you is the fact that you don't have to provide lighting or fire protection underneath this system. From here, we can walk out and we can see the actual security mesh barrier provided by Kane on this project. So it's from mezzanine structure all the way up to the upper tier cell. Provides safety for officers and inmates. It's a powder coated product. It's a 1/4 inch woven wire, widely used throughout the entire industry. Above that, it's a newer, unique product that Steel Cell North America has developed in the last several years. So it's a cantilevered fascia wall and ceiling system that is completely bearing on top of the upper cell. So there's actually trusses on top of the cell you can't see, and then it's formed with 12 gauge panels and batten plates to provide the security barrier and fascia wall complete within the entire fascia wall and mezzanine system. With that, I think I've explained enough about this day room here at Delaware County. I want to give it over to Rick Lewis and Michele Dorsch at Accurate Controls and Willoughby to talk a little bit more about their specialty systems that are on this project.
We're excited to be at Delaware County to install a modular control system. At Delaware County, we have 37 modular panels that service 74 cells in 10 day rooms. With the Design Assist construction method, we as a team of Pauly Jail, Accurate Controls, and Steel Cell were able to provide the modular control system at Delaware County. What we're going to show you today is the process of the Steel Cell being installed. When it's delivered, it has all of the components installed from the factory. This allows us to simply install the panel into the cabinet, plug in the interconnect wires and the networking cable, and then set up our control station and begin testing. Once Steel Cell delivers the cell to the job site, Accurate Controls can install the panel at the back of the cell, and Pauly Jail can install the locking system. Once the locking system is installed, Accurate Controls is ready to begin testing the audio system as well as the locking system. With this partnership, Accurate Controls is able to begin testing ahead of schedule, which saves time in the construction process as well as it saves cost to the owner. Let me show you what it looks like for accurate controls to test a modular panel.
There is an intercom call.
Once an intercom call is placed, the intercom icon will start to flash orange, the site map will flash orange, as well as the call will be in our activity list. I can answer the intercom by selecting the icon on the touchscreen. Once I'm connected, I can then communicate with the inmate in the cell. One moment, please. Once the intercom is answered, I have a couple options. I can either disconnect or I can unlock the cell. For now, I'm just going to disconnect. The modular panel is pre-wired to monitor the indication on the door as two separate indications. Each door has an LSS or lock status switch, as well as a DPS or door position switch. To test the door, we simply select the door icon and then select the unlock icon. When a door is unlocked, the lock status will disappear, showing the door unlocked. Once the door is open, the icon will show the door open. When the door is secure, the DPS and the LSS will show a secure door. After the preliminary testing of the modular control system is complete, accurate controls will thoroughly test the entire system to commission it. Once commissioned, accurate controls will send a certified trainer to provide operator, administrator, and maintenance training to your staff. After testing, commissioning, and training, accurate controls remains on site until the facility is operational.
As Jared said, my name's Rick Lewis. I'm the National Sales Manager with Willoughby Industries. And for those of you that don't know, Willoughby Industries is the plumbing component to the Pauly Jail and Steel Cell of North America team. We are the manufacturer of the stainless steel plumbing fixtures and electronic plumbing controls and shower equipment that goes inside one of the steel cells. You'll hear a little bit more in a presentation later today from our ownership team in regards to who Willoughby is and what we're all about. You also get to take a peek inside our manufacturing operation. But I think for right now, let's go inside the cell and take a look at the plumbing component of the steel cell. What you'll see inside the cell as far as where Willoughby has involvement on the plumbing side of things is each of the cells will have a stainless steel combination lav toilet unit. The combination lav toilet unit is fabricated from heavy gauge, 14 gauge, type 304 stainless steel. It's all one piece. And again, you'll be able to see some of this when they go through the video later today as far as how this product is manufactured. But the nice part about it is everything is all welded. There's no loose parts on this fixture. And so when you don't have to worry about the inmates being able to get something off the fixture and using it as a weapon or using it as a device to harm one of your correctional officers. So it's an all one piece unit with no removable parts. From the standpoint of what you're seeing on the backsplash of the fixture right here, we have 3 push buttons. We have cold, we have hot, and we have flush, okay? And so the operation of this fixture would be the button gets pressed, and you'll begin to see then water flowing out of the bubbler, what we call the bubbler spout. So you can either use that as a drinking fountain device or as a hand washing device. You know, because the cell is typically small, that's one of the reasons why we have the combination unit with the toilet and sink built into the same cabinetry, so we save space as far as the footprint, but we then also utilize the spout on here as both a drinking fountain device and a hand washing device. So we have hot, we have cold water that then goes into the sink bowl, and then also then the third push button that's off to the side right here is the button here is for the flush of the toilet. And one of the things I want to call your attention to when we look at this toilet, okay, I can tell you plumbing is a huge maintenance item inside a jail, okay? This toilet's going to get flushed when this cell is operational anywhere between 25 to 30 times a day. Okay, and so plumbing is a huge maintenance item. I can tell you I was up last week with the Branch County Sheriff up in Coldwater, Michigan. He shared with me that they spent more money on Roto-Rooter last year than they did on ammunition for their sheriff deputies. Okay, and I don't think, as the people that are listening to this presentation, if you're a sheriff, if you're a jail administrator, if you're a chief deputy, I think you probably have experiences that are similar to that. Plumbing will be your #1 maintenance issue inside a jail. And why is that? Well, if you look at this cell, okay, the plumbing fixture is the only device that's operational in here. I don't see anywhere on these walls any sort of thermostat to be able to adjust the temperature. Clearly, the inmate doesn't have the ability to open and close the door whenever they want to. There's no windows that they can open back here on the back wall. The only thing in this cell that they have a cause and effect relationship with is this toilet. And because it has something on it, and it does something for them, they will try to wreak havoc on this particular item in this cell. So one of the things that I wanted to show you again is when this toilet flushes, we've developed a unique flushing mechanism, and I want you to be able to see in the front of this bowl there's going to be a jet of water that's going to shoot through that tube and help the water and the paper and the waste jettison through the trapway. So here's what we'll see. See that flush of water right there as it's shooting everything back through the trapway? That is very critical to avoid drain clogs and any of those type issues that you would have with a typical toilet in a jail cell. So when we just shot the fixture, you might ask, what is this right here? Okay, that right there, that is a vacuum sensor. And what that is part of one of the options that this fixture has, and Steel Cell has made it a standard on the products that they provide, unless the owner specifically states that they do not want it. But that is the toilet overflow preventer option. And that device does exactly what its name says it will do, is it will eliminate a toilet overflow. Raise of hands. I can tell you, I would guess that the sheriffs, the chief deputies, and the jail commanders listening today will tell you that the overflowing of a toilet is a big problem within their current jail. And that device right there, what happens is when the water level rises to a point, let's say that they took a bed sheet, they took a pillowcase, they took shoes and shoved it down into the tube on the toilet and then started flushing that toilet to the point where the water level in the bowl rises to the point where it blocks this sensor. Once it blocks that sensor that's normally pulling air through it, and that sensor begins to start pulling water through it, what it's going to do is it is going to trigger the cell valve controller, which we'll show you here in a moment, the cell valve controller back into chase, and tell the cell valve controller, hey, this toilet is going into an overflow state, and immediately that cell valve controller, the brains of the unit, is going to shut the supply of water off to this fixture so they are unable to add any more water to that toilet to cause that toilet to overflow. Okay? We went at one of our water management system that we have, which is called the WMS2 system. We went at that system for two reasons. Number one is water conservation, where we'll be able to show you how you can limit the number of times that this toilet flushes throughout the day. But I think even a bigger feature to that product than the water savings component is the control. It gives you control over inmate water usage, so they literally cannot sit here and flush that toilet 1,000 times a day, which is what can happen on conventional type plumbing if there's no water management component. So the other things that Willoughby produces for Steel Cell in this cell here would be the mirror. Okay, this is a one-piece, all stainless steel, die-stamped mirror with the reflective finish put on it. No glass. You don't need to worry about any shattering of glass. So it's a one-piece mirror. We do manufacture a line of towel hooks, which is this is what you're seeing is what we call the class type towel hook assembly, and we do manufacture those. We also, and sometimes there are people that ask for this shelf to be in stainless steel, and we will manufacture the shelf in stainless steel if the specifications call for it. The last item is the shower. So on the shower setup here, which is obviously plumbing as well, Steel Cell makes this nice cabinet that goes into the back of the cell. And so with this cabinet then, what we do is we provide this with a push button, just like the push buttons that we saw on the combination lav toilet unit. So when this button gets pressed, a unique feature to the Steel Cell cell is the ceiling mounted shower head. which then sprays down instead of out. And then, you know, the point when once a shower curtain is installed on this is the goal is to keep that water inside that shower cabinet and not have any fugitive water out here on the floor, which could be then used as a slip point for someone to slip on. So basically the operation is the button gets pressed, and I move my hand out very quickly there, and the button gets pressed, and you'll see that the flow of shower or water is coming out of that shower head and then falling to the drain that is at in the bottom of the shower right there. So that is, from a internal cell standpoint, those are the products that Willoughby provides for the Pauly steel cell team in terms of plumbing. Okay, we've seen what happens plumbing-wise in the cell, and so what we wanted to do is take you to the other side of the wall and welcome to the plumbing chase, or the mechanical pipe chase. As you can see, this pipe chase here is a staple of the Pauly steel cell design as their preferred design, which gives you plenty of room for maintenance access to be able to maintain the plumbing, to be able to maintain the electronics and all of the different items that would require maintenance at some point in their time. So we would just call this attention to any of the architects that are viewing today's presentation to make sure that you consider the rear chase, pipe chase, whenever you're making your design. So as we come back, as it pertains to the Willoughby equipment on the plumbing side of things, one of the first things that we want to talk about is the cell valve controller. We were talking about on the in the cell, you know, what happens when those push buttons are pressed. When those push buttons are pressed, what they're doing is they're sending a signal here to the cell valve controller. The cell valve controller is the brains of the system, okay? This is what the brains of the water management system. So it receives the inputs, and as long as this cell valve controller says it's okay to send an output, then something will happen. So basically what we've got set up right now is with the cell valve controller here at Delaware County is now functional. It is, you will see inside there's some LED lights. The green light that you should be seeing now shows that there is power to the system, and then the red blinking light indicates that it is a communicating system that now has been programmed with the various programs that we have built into the circuit board inside the box. So that cell valve controller then controls the valves that control the fixtures. So remember the combination lav toilet unit that we were seeing on the cell side of the fixture. This is what it looks like back here in the pipe chase area. Okay, so we're going to start with this device right here, which is the hot and cold lavatory valve. So what you're seeing right here is your domestic cold water coming into the valve right here, and here's your domestic hot water coming into the valve right here. And so as this water flows into here, it's going to go through this, which is a check stop strainer assembly. This stop right here can be screwed down, so if you ever need to get into the valve for maintenance purposes, there's a handy stop right there. It also has a strainer that's built into this area right here that strains any foreign material that might be coming down the line, such as solder, dirt, sand. You know, we're trying to get that strained out before it gets up into the valve. The water flow then comes down through the strainer. Now we're at a solenoid valve, and this is a normally closed solenoid valve. So something has to happen to this valve to cause this valve to open to allow water to pass through it. So when it receives the output from the cell valve controller, this valve will open and water will be able to pass through this solenoid valve and then come through this tube right here. And remember what we saw on the cell side where the water was flowing out of the bubbler spout. That's how water enters into the sink bowl. So this is the hot and cold, cold and hot side of the lavatory valve. The flush valve, this is a brass-bodied Sloan type flushometer with proven technology in terms of being able to open and then close and then provide the adequate refill that's required in the toilet bowl so that there's water left once the flushing cycle is completed. what we've done is we have added this solenoid valve to the side of that Sloan flushometer. That's how we're able to communicate with the cell valve controller and to be able to control that valve from the front end computer. Again, this is a normally closed valve, so something has to happen to this valve to cause it to open to then allow the flush cycle. And what you're seeing is when that control box sends the output to this valve, it will energize, the valve will open, and then water will be able to pass through the valve, down through this elbow, and then ultimately into the toilet bowl to provide the wash down that you saw when we flushed the toilet on the cell side. So that is the flush valve. Very important to have a brass-bodied flush valve called out in your design. Then we also have, as we also saw on the cell side, the shower. And very similar to the lavatory valve, this is the shower valve. There's only one side to the valve right here because we're running tempered water out of the tempering valve to the shower so that we're not scalding somebody with hot water inside the shower. So the flow of water here comes through here, through the check stop strainer assembly, just like on the lavatory valve, up to this valve, and then the water will go out and then exit at the shower head inside the cell. So that's kind of the hardware or the operational side of the plumbing fixture. What I wanted to also do is we walk over to the cell valve controller, and here is the cell valve controller that is the operational side of the fixture. And one of the nice things that maintenance likes about this valve or about this controller is the ability to have these buttons in here where we're able to come in here and press these buttons, and I don't know if you just heard that, but from that control box I was able to flush that toilet. And that is very handy when you're a maintenance person and you're trying to perform maintenance on things. You're not having to go back into the cell to test the plumbing system once it's already operational. So this is again the cell valve controller. These green wires that you're seeing right here, that's the communication wiring. And so that communication wiring is what runs from the computer to the cell valve controller, and then will daisy chain around the facility. So if you were to walk through these 22 cells down this maintenance corridor right here, that you would see that green wire being stretched down through there, and that's the communication wiring. That's how we're able to communicate with each of those fixtures down through the range right there. This set right here, what you're seeing here is a set of dip switches inside each of these cell valve controllers. Those dip switches, or for lack of a better word, is the IP address to the cell valve controller. So that's how our front end computer, we're able to say that, hey, we want to shut the water off to cell H143. It's able to communicate based on how those dip switches are set up so that the front end computer will be able to recognize what cell 143 is. So now, let's go look at the front end computer and see how it communicates with the cell valve controller. Okay, so now we've seen what happens when in the cell, when the fixture's operational in the cell. We went back into the mechanical pipe chase and we saw what happened back in the mechanical pipe chase. Now let's have some fun. Let's see what the real system can do and what happens up in the control room. What we have on display here today is our water management system, the Willoughby WMS2 system. That system is a system that is part of the Pauly Steel Cell Design Assist package that allows for water conservation and inmate water usage control. Those are the big two items that we have, with respect to this system, is we're trying to save water, which reduces cost for the county or for the owner, and then we're also trying to give the correctional officers the ability to control inmate water usage. So for instance, let's say that we're inside a cell and we've got a inmate that's given us problems, and what we want to be able to do is from the front end computer be able to shut the water off to that individual cell. And that's key right there, to that individual cell. And when I'm talking about water, I'm talking about the hot water, the cold water to the sink, and also then the flush valve. We're able to pull up that cell on a computer screen and we hit an X icon, or a lock icon I should say. And that lock icon will appear, and then if the inmate goes in and then tries to flush the toilet or operate the sink or operate anything in that cell, such as the shower, then that fixture will be shut off, okay? If we want to go in and do a contraband search, and let's say that we're going to cell block H, and there's 8 cells in cell block H, stage. We go to cell number 1, we go to cell number 2, meaning the correctional officers are going to cell 1, 2. Well, what's the person in 3, 4, 5, and 6 doing should they have something inside their cell that they shouldn't have? Well, immediately they're going to try to get rid of that and try to flush it down the toilet. Well, before we ever get to that cell block, what we can do is shut the water off to all of those 8 individual cells. So we have the ability to be able to do that. And then the last thing that the system will do is all of the activity that's going on in the facility, all the plumbing activity can be logged to a spreadsheet. Okay, and why is that important? Well, believe it or not, some of these inmates like to file lawsuits. And one of the things that they'll file lawsuits on is the lack of access to water. And what we would then be able to show them that, hey, if they say they hadn't had water in 48 hours, we'd be able to show them that, hey, here's a report that shows that this fixture was flushed at this time, this minute, this hour, this second, and be able to log a report like that that then can be printed out for you. So those are just some of the features that the Willoughby Water Management System allows you as the facility operator.
With that, I want to thank everyone for watching this seminar and being part of it. Appreciate you listening to learn a little bit more about the design assist approach for a correctional industry. I want to thank Rick Lewis and Michele for both coming out and sharing their unique systems for this project. And with that, we're going to send it back to you, Joe.